Um, I just want to say on my end, in terms of how I keep the characters straight, besides practice, 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 and I try to go through all the characters of each book once a week, in just reciting different song lyrics to them. But what I find has been helpful, first of all, you talked, Kris, about how you were a pantser right up until
Recently.
recently.
Hmm.
I I have a couple of things that have helped me streamline my process with characters. Um, so I find that if I have a set of baselines for different characters, like a stock number of male voices that I have and a stock number of female voices that I have. And of course, because I was born with this particular birthday suit, there's a more limited range of female voices that I have. But basically, it's okay. Here are the core ingredients for every voice that I do, and now here's the X factor. Very similar to the quirks that you were talking about
Hmm.
with the characters. So, for example, I've got Doc, Adam Cassidy, who I believe is
Right.
book number 3.
Correct.
And
You're good.
he gets through. Oh yeah, yeah. This is how I catalog things. I actually, um, what I've been doing recently is I've been going book by book in my head as I narrate the characters. So I've actually got the sequence down, because we've
Excellent.
got, I think, about, I don't even want to say how many characters we've got at this point. And they yeah,
Oh,
there are
over 50.
over
Over
50, and
over 50
and
easy.
there are times when they get together for dinner at the ranch, and yeah, at that point I know I'm in for some fun. Um, but
I would say I'm sorry, but I live for those conversations. When I hear them on audio, I love it.
well, and I love narrating it because it's so gratifying, when the characters finally get to take a break and eat some just, wonderful food, have some great family time. I mean, it's delightful. But yeah, I go book by book, couple by couple. And so I, review the men. I review the women for the Kings series, and then for the other series, I'll do the same.
Mhm.
Um, but what I've found is that there are baselines to my voice, and then I stir a little something different on top. So I've got two resonances for female voices that I have. One is what I call the Charlize Theron voice, which is that the way you pronounce her last name?
It's how
Anyway,
I pronounce it.
great. We'll agree. We'll agree to agree. And if anybody has comments, then please put them in. Um, but it's a very husky type of voice, and it's got a thin sort of tone to it. Not a thin tone, but a very breathy kind of tone to it. But there's a level of husk to it. So this is the voice that I use. This is my bass line that I use, almost like a milkshake. This is my vanilla base, and then we stir flavors into it. So, for example, this is the voice that I originally used for Victoria, for Vicky. But then I find that later, this is the voice that I use also for Eve, but Eve is Midwesterner. So, with Kris's permission, I use the ing and I abbreviate it to in. So, working becomes working. It's also the voice that I use for, I believe it is Sky, who hooks up with Anubis.
Mhm.
And Sky has this bass line, but Sky is so stressed out at the beginning of her book
Stressed.
that I take it up and have it sort of be just a general sigh. Everything is kind of a general sigh. All right, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I have going on, and let's survive. Let's get it done. Now,
Mhm.
on the other hand, there's the baseline that I have of the more thin, soft palate resonance, and it goes up into here. And this is the voice that I used for Keely,
Yep.
um, the sister of Victoria. And what I find with this one, so this is the vanilla milkshake base for Keely. and or let's say chocolate based, because you can do different flavors and tones of chocolate as well. But this is the chocolate base for Keely. And then what I do is I stir different flavors into that. For example, when I'm doing, let's see, Jasmine, who ends up hooking up with Chad. Um, what I found is with Jasmine, okay, how do I make her voice distinct from everybody else? I'll do sort of a classic thing where sentences tend to rise as if they're questions, but they actually conclude as sentences. So that's one thing that I do for Jasmine. Now, another thing is with Joy. Joy is sort of like if Joseph and Keely had a love child,
Yes.
that would be Joy, because Joy is always kind of, she's a little cynical. She's always kind of angling for something, and is kind of a smart ass, and doesn't really do touchy feely stuff very well. So I give her that kind of thing, which is also very much like Joseph's kind of deal. So that's what I find
Well,
I do.
which one do you use for Jade? Because I love how you do Jade.
Well, actually, believe it or not, I would not have given birth to Jade's voice as we know it if it hadn't been for Christian. Now, with Christian, who is the husband, essentially, of
Jared.
Jared, you would put Tom Cruise. And I was like, okay, what's the Tom Cruise voice? It's a little bit nasal. It's got a sound in here. Now it's not completely sort of like, it's not like, Bert from Ernie and Bert, but it's got that kind of thing going on here. So I use that for Christian. I make it so it's soft enough to match Christian's general approach and general demeanor. Um, and then what I did with Jade is I took that and I turned it into I sort of like took that and then melded it with what eventually became Joy's voice. So it's this very sort of sly kind of, yeah, I really dig that. Is there any trouble I can get into today? Because
That's it.
I would love to get into some trouble. Oh, you're no fun. You know.
Yeah, I love that narration of, I mean, I love all the books, but the narration that you did for Jade was amazing. It
Oh,
was
well,
amazing.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, we narrators, we make choices.